Yeah.
Hey there, everybody. Mandy and Karis here, and we are here for our second podcast, all about anxiety. I'm so glad that you were able to tune in with us. We are going to share this over to the Purposeful Woman group. If you are not involved with the Purposeful Woman group right now, please head on over there and join us and ask to join the group because it's an awesome community full of amazing women and full of awesome information, whether it's about just health, mind, body, and spirit. Because we believe that health comes from within first before anything. So please head on over there and introduce yourself and all that kind of good stuff. So I am Amanda Middleton from amandamiddleton.me, and this is Karis Snyder from karissnyder.com. And we are here to basically just talk about anxiety today. This is a tough subject for both of us because both of us find ourselves in these predicaments some days, and it's an overcoming situation every single day sometimes, and it's just a hard place to be. So Karis, did you share on the Purposeful Woman? Sorry,
Let's see. Let me see.
or do I need to? Okay. I will. We didn't talk about this at the beginning. Sorry. But
people here, real people working.
Yeah, we're real here. While she's doing that, also, like I said, we would love for you to join the community, and at the end, we would love to talk with all of you. Right now, we cannot see your comments on Facebook Live, but we will be looking at them at the very end. We will also have this podcast up on iTunes as well as both of our websites. So you're more than welcome to go back and also share it with your loved ones. You can also share it from this post itself. So yeah.
Okay, so, I think it's on there. So
okay.
Y'all let us know.
We got it. So yeah. So we are so glad that you are here and so glad that you're taking this journey with us because like I said, this is a tough subject. I will be honest with you, I didn't want to do this one this morning. So it's just a tough subject. So yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, it is. And even as you're talking about it, I can feel anxiety inside of me knowing, that we're about to talk about something that I have not completely overcome. I mean, it's just that way, Mandy and I were talking just the last 2 weeks. We've both been attacked with, more severe anxiety than what we have had in the last, I don't know, maybe few months or so in our life. So we know what those attacks are. We know what it feels like. And let's just be honest to everybody who is watching this or may watch or listen later, at some point in everyone's life, you're going to deal with anxiety. It may not be as severe as some of us. It may not be to that degree, but everybody has dealt with it or will deal with it at some point. So kind of, what is anxiety? So I was kind of looking through this just to get some definitions. Anxiety is those feelings of fear, feelings of worry, self-doubt, having more fear about something than faith. A lot of times, even for me, because I have dealt with severe anxiety, it's irrational fear. It's just you go to the worst possible place of what something could happen, and it's here in your head, and it's real. Like it's real that's what's going to happen. Anxiety just kind of traps you in that. And when you do deal with severe anxiety, and some of y'all may be watching us today and you're there, nobody may know that you're there and you're dealing with severe anxiety, but when you're there, when you're in it, it completely freezes you. You're completely frozen, and it bothers your personal daily activities. Like it messes you up. It just affects everything around you. Like it's not just oh, I'm freaking out. Like you are really, you're dealing with something that's serious. Nobody can see it. Nobody knows what's going on. And I think that's why we hide it, because not everybody understands it. And I know until I dealt with it, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it was real.
Right.
I didn't think it was real. And I thought people were just being dramatic. They were being selfish. I mean, and that's just me being honest, talking about where I was before I dealt with it. And some of you may have people like that in your life. And I know that's hard and that's a struggle. And first, let me say to you, I feel like I need to say to you on their behalf, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if they've made you feel less than or made you feel like what you're dealing with is not real. Unfortunately, they don't understand. And it's hard. So in their place, I say to you, I am sorry, because I was there and I was that person. And I do hope that you can understand and know that one day they'll get it and one day they'll come around. And if they don't, find people put in your life who will understand and who will be supportive of you as you go through it. That's what this podcast is for. That's what we're here for, to support you and walk with you through this journey. But you may be, saying, what does anxiety feel like? And for me, Mandy, anxiety feels like there are elephants sitting on my chest and they're jumping up and down and pounding as hard as they can. And then sometimes it feels like I'm like climbing a ladder and I'm frozen and I can't move. I can't get out of the bed. I am literally frozen. So anxiety makes me feel like I cannot do anything, and my heart is pounding out of my chest and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm having a heart attack, I'm dying. Those are some things that I feel when I have anxiety. What about you, Mandy? What kind of do you feel when you go through those moments?
It's like two people in my brain just fighting each other. Yeah. It's constant, because it's constant worry. You know what you're supposed to feel over here, and this person's going, Mandy, just stop. You know better than this. And this person's over here going, but what if? Yeah. What if? And it's just a constant battle. And then that, having a constant battle in your head can, leave you debilitating, really. Yeah. Because you're like, okay, I'm not going to go outside the house. I'm not going to people, because I don't want them to know the truth. Most of the time people don't even realize that I'm going through it unless they really, really know me. Or, some of them can see it written all over my face. Well, those people that can see it written all over my face, I try to avoid them.
Yes.
And that's a dangerous place to be too, because you need them. You need their prayer. You need their love and support. And, it's just, it's really hard. I mean, even coming on and doing this, because last week I had a really tough week. And I was like, Karis, I actually messaged her last night and was like, I just don't know if I can do this morning or tomorrow morning. And of course, I knew that I needed to do it because I knew that it would help somebody else. But it's so hard to let that people in at that time, because you're like, okay, I'm supposed to have all this all together and I'm supposed to be able to do this. And you're human, you're human. And even coming on here and doing this regardless is so outside of my box anyway. So I got the sweats going on all the time anyway. And, somebody was actually saying the other day, you do so great with these lives. I was like, oh, I wish you could see me beforehand. I'm like, oh God.
Yes.
That's the calm, cool, and collective stuff that you want everybody to see whenever you have anxiety too, is you don't want them to see the armpit sweats. You don't want them to see all that back stuff. You want them to see this and that. That's not helping anybody. That's not helping yourself, and it's not helping anybody else either. So I would definitely say it's more in my head, just the angel and the devil like battling each other constantly. So
yes, I know. And I call it the should bully. We are constantly saying, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or I'm a leader in my church. I shouldn't be worrying. I shouldn't be afraid, and all these things when we're human, and this is the stuff that humans struggle with. And this is why God sent his son, because he knew that we were going to have these battles and these struggles. And he didn't want us to go through it alone. He didn't want us to struggle with it alone. And I was trying to pinpoint in my life when I began to really struggle with, severe anxiety, when I really started going through stuff. And for me, it was back in 2011. And that's when a lot of things in my life started kind of going downhill. For me, it was a mixture of anxiety and depression. And anxiety and depression don't always go together, but it did for me. And sometimes anxiety can be triggered by a really bad event in your life. It can be triggered by anything. I know when I started going through it, dealing with some things, I was working out incorrectly. I was not eating not enough at all. I mean, again, this is another part of my story, but I was drinking probably 4 to 5 gallons of water a day, eating less than 1,000 calories. So I had depleted my body, and I was working out with weight that I had never lifted weights before, and it was the wrong weight, and it was just too much. And I had tore my chest cavity muscle. And instead of telling people, I just hid it, because I was like, oh, I can't let anybody know what I did, because that anxiety makes you want to feel like you're perfect, want to feel like you have it all together, and you've got to keep it all together. So I did. But finally, one day, I had a severe anxiety attack, and I went to the doctor because I thought I was having a heart attack. And right. he was like, ma'am, this is anxiety attack. I was like, what? And I was like, there's no way, that's not real. And he's like, oh, it's real, and this is what you're dealing with. And then we had a tornado that hit in our town. So all that kind of mixed together, and that began my journey through realizing, hey, this is a real issue. People are really struggling with this, and we've got to figure out a way to overcome it. So that's kind of where I saw my journey begin. Do you kind of see just different areas where journey began with it?
Yeah, and while you were talking, I was just sitting here thinking, one thing that I always say whenever I'm going through a spell of anxiety or whatever is, I'm so tired. I'm just tired, because you feel like you're getting hit by one thing and then another and then another. But we all know that it's the way that we deal with those things that are hitting us. And I deal with them the wrong way whenever I'm going through that. And yeah, I mean, I can definitely see. I have to say, my big, I guess my big spell with anxiety, or my first big spell, now that I look back, I can see that I dealt with it all my life, even probably as a kid, because I was very fearful at times. I was kind of not fearful other times, whenever I probably should have been in my teenage years. But I mean, I was pretty fearful, and I was a little maybe too aware of stuff around me, and not too aware. I guess that's not the words that I'm trying to say, but just, it was always the what ifs, even if I was a kid. But it really hit me after I had my twins. No fault to my twins at all, because I love them regardless, but it was hard. It was just a hard spot. I found myself with a 3-year-old, infant twins, and I would beg my husband, please just come home. This is just, I mean, and I think every mom goes through that, no matter if you have twins or a singleton, or, it doesn't matter. I think every mom kind of goes and feels a little bit overwhelmed at times, and it's just the way that you deal with it. And I dealt with it the wrong way. I closed myself off to everybody around me. I, just kind of went inward, and that's where I go, is definitely inward. And yeah, definitely. And I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to people, because you don't want anybody to see that secret, and you don't want anybody to see where you are. And it's just, so I can definitely see that. And now, I even find myself, since we've had the twins, it's like if I'm going through an anxiety spat or whatever at that time, I can look back and go, ever since I had the twins, we had this hit and that hit and this hit and that hit, and I'm just tired. But if I'm not going through an anxiety spell at that time, I'm like, you know what? But we overcame that, and we overcame that. It's that stinking thinking that gets in your head, you know?
Yeah. Anxiety, I think it thrives on our thoughts, in our head, in our mind. And like you're saying, we go inward with it, and we withdraw. And so then this becomes louder. So anxiety can become louder because it's so powerful in our minds, because it convinces us so much to not talk about it, to not share it. That what if, what are people going to think? Anxiety takes you into that fear factor mode, and it makes you stop. It makes you stop living. Makes you stop living. And that's not what we want to do. We want to overcome, like you're talking about. And so I heard you, while you were talking, I heard you say, with anxiety, you're tired. And I'm the same way. And it made me think about triggers. Sometimes if you know, okay, these things are going to trigger this in my life, that can be part of your overcoming process. So I know some triggers for me are when I don't get enough sleep. That is totally a trigger for me. Another couple of triggers for me is, how much sugar have I had, in that day or the couple of days. And then caffeine is another one. Like, I can drink 2 cups of coffee and I'm good to go. But if I drink that third one,
it's like,
yeah, I know it's coming. And sometimes I make the choice, and I have to, I'm choosing to not treat my body, because I drink that third cup. Another trigger that I was thinking about in my life is totally fear of failure, fear I'm going to let you down, fear I'm not good enough, fear of the what if, and the situation becomes real in my life. I was just trying to see, even for me, if I'm not spending daily time and just reading my Bible and just filling my mind with the right thoughts, those are other triggers for me. So what do you think? Like, what are some triggers?
Well, it's funny that you say that about nutrition and all that. And, that's my total background. And that's what I help women with every day. And, I have a hormone imbalance. I had a hysterectomy way early. And then I found myself with anxiety and all this issues. And so sugar is a huge thing. Gluten's a huge thing for me. So, we'll go on vacation, which Karis is with me on this one. We love Disney World. We have that common bond there. So we'll go to Disney World, and people will say, well, why don't you just have that Mickey ear? Believe me, I want that Mickey ear. I yearn for that Mickey ear, but I don't a lot of times, because first of all, large crowds can trigger me big time. And so then if I add that sugar factor on top of it, or that dairy or gluten or whatever, it's going to make it worse. And that's a huge trigger for me, is food. And so that's why I have always, and exercise. I'll get in that funk, and I'll get and go inward. And then I'm like, you know what? I've got to do something physical. If I don't, I'm about to explode. And as long as I do something physical, I can at least bring myself out of it for a little while. So when people say, things like, oh, you can have that, you can eat that, you don't have to work out today. No, I really do, for my mental health. And it's not just about my physique. It's not just about, yes, that is awesome. I love being able to fit into my skinny jeans or whatever, but that's not the first and foremost thing. First and foremost thing is this being okay. Yeah. And I do have to say, sometimes I let it get the best of me, and we go to Disney, and, I eat that Mickey ear, because that's my huge weakness there, and I pay for it because then my anxiety is getting the best of me. I'm not enjoying my kids as much. And then whenever I come home, I am an emotional wreck. And because I've had so much sugar and then I've had so much anxiety on top of it, and I literally have to detox myself from the inside out. I mean, so, that's definitely one thing. And another trigger for me, like I said, is crowds. And people are always so surprised that we go to Disney. It's crazy what you'll do for the love of Disney or the love of your family, So I was even explaining this to my husband one day because he can always tell it when we're at Disney. Now, I go to Disney for work by myself sometimes, and that's hard, especially this last trip. My husband wasn't able to go with me. I let it get the best of me, and I didn't have as much fun as I should have. Yes, I went for work and I did what I had to do for work, but it wasn't as much fun as it could have been, because I let all those triggers get to me and I let the crowd get to me. But my husband can always tell whenever I'm going through something because I get really quiet and I just kind of just looking around. But I guess my anxiety there with crowds is I'm always looking for a way out. And, he actually one day, this is kind of humorous, but it's not, because it's the truth, and it's where people live some days. Is he said, okay, as we go down Main Street, USA in Magic Kingdom, tell me what you're thinking. And I was like, oh, dude, you do not want to know what I'm thinking. He was like, no, I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know your thought process on this. And it was constant, like, okay, that guy over there, he looks a little sketchy. This guy right here, how can I get out of here? All these people are over here in this bunch. Why are they in this bunch? I've got the kids right here. How can I get them out of here if something goes wrong? What if an alarm goes off? What if? And he looked at me and he said, no wonder you were so exhausted. You were not enjoying the moment. You're not enjoying, yes, all those what ifs could happen. And yes, it's great to have a plan. Yeah. I mean, but you can't live in that. And I didn't realize it was just constant fear. It was just constant. And it was mainly just wanting to protect my kids too, And I think as moms, we all can relate to that, because you just want to protect your kids. But it comes with that control. If you're not, that's hard, because you're not giving up complete control for God to step in and say, hey, I got to enjoy this. And it robs your joy. I mean, completely. I can tell you a lot of times that we've gone on vacation or even being here at home, and it's completely robbing my joy, and that's not the person that I am, by nature. It's not. And it's just, it's hard.
Yeah. Control, loss of control, and fear, I think, are the two, biggest ones. I remember, and this is awful, but hey, we're being real, but I would go to Walmart, or I would go wherever, and I would not park near white vans, big vehicles, because I'm like, what if somebody's, like, my anxiety would be like, somebody could be in there, they're going to grab me, or my kids, stuff like that would get me. Or if I'm driving home at night by myself, I don't know if y'all have done this before. Again, just being real, I would open the back seat behind my seat, the door, to check to make sure nobody's under there, right? Because if you watch ridiculous, scary shows, this is what's on there. They're waiting on you.
The shower curtain.
And I would even drive at night with my lights on in my car. So if somebody was in there, even though I've checked, and I'm speeding down the highway at 70 miles an hour, but my lights are on, so somebody could see it, and somebody could, it would just, I would be in knots when I would get home, and my husband would be like, what is wrong with you? And it would be over fear.
Right.
Things that are not, true. And that, thinking about fear, false evidence appearing real.
Right.
It appears real, and it is real to you. It is totally real. It is totally legit. These things could happen. And it is, I would have to, when I started trying to overcome things and be like, okay, God, I don't want to live like this. Like you're saying, it robs you of your joy. It robs you of everything good in your life. And I was like, okay, it is time to overcome. There is ways to overcome this. Help me. And I had to start. One way to help me begin that process, again, we're still trying to figure this out. We don't have it all figured out, trust me. But one of the things is I would have to start saying out loud or writing down what it was that was in my mind. And I would either say it out loud like I'm saying, or I would write it down and I would read it out loud and realize this is not true. Right. It's not true. It's not real. It's not going to happen. And then sometimes I would just write it down and I would throw it away because it would be like just for me saying, I'm not going to think about this. And I would have to choose to replace it. Like think about your gas tank in your car. You got to fill it back up.
Right.
So what are we going to fill our mind back up with? So I'd have to fill it back up with good things. And so I would think on things that I was thankful for. I would pray. I would look for scripture, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 has always been one for me. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him and he'll make your paths straight. So I'd have to say that over and over and over again. And I would just find other scriptures that would help me think on things that were good, that were life-giving, not like you're saying, the stinking thinking, because I couldn't go there. And I will say this, and again, I know this may be taboo for some, but because my anxiety was so severe, I got help. I got a counselor who I could talk to, and I got medical help from my doctor because I had gone too far and it had become a severe thing. PTSD, that's a real thing. All these disorders that people deal with, those are real things. And I was to the point where, just like if I would have had heart disease or diabetes or something like that, and medication could help me for a season in my life, I did that. And I thank God every day for the doctors he put in my life, for the counselor he put in my life, because the medication wasn't so much to help the issue. I had to deal with the issue. Like I had to figure it out. And part of you out there who are ready to overcome this, you're going to have to get down to the root of the issue. And that is one thing that my counselor, helped me to do, is I had to figure out where the fear was coming from that was triggering these anxieties. So those are some things that I did to help me overcome. Mandy, what about you? I know, again, we're still in this process of figuring this out together, but we're not where we were.
Right, exactly. We're on this journey with you. We may be a couple of steps ahead, but we're right there with you. I would have to say talking and getting it out, because like I said, I'll go inward, and I have a good support system, so they make me talk it out. And, my husband makes me talk it out. My church family and my friends and people who love me, they make me talk it out, because I am the type of person that, like, it will go inward. It's anxiety and I have this battle, but at some point I'm going to explode.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a good explosion. It never is. And it's not good for me. It's not good for the people around me. It's not good for anybody. So, I definitely, I have to surround myself with positive people, or people who are for me. And get me. I do, and I know I've said this before in my other live videos and in the podcast, I block and release a lot, and I don't feel bad about it. I mean, there are people on Facebook who trigger me, and it is what it is. I mean, I don't say that they're bad people. Some of them are mean.
Right.
But that's between them and God, not me. But I love blocking people, and I will do it in real life and face to face too. I have to kind of block and release some days too, because I can't handle it at that day. And that's okay. I've learned that it is okay. And prayer. I mean, there are some times that I don't want to pray about it though. So again, that's my support system that steps in for me and just kind of, they have the faith for me.
Right.
They step in the gap for me, and they're right there for me. I mean, I have to say there were people on Sunday morning who prayed for me, and I was just telling Karis this before. I knew that they were about to pray for me, and I felt like a little kid, and I wanted to turn around and just walk away. But I knew it was a good thing, and it was an awesome thing, and they loved me, but it was like, you know, I just don't want to deal with this right now, you know. But they stood firm. They said, maybe you know better than this, and we got this for you, even if you don't got it for yourself, you know. So that's the biggest thing for me, is just having that big support system, and you know, just knowing that you aren't alone. Because like you were saying, you know, there is a place for medicine, and I think in the church for so long, anxiety and depression has just been kind of put on the back burner. No fault of anybody's. It's just one of those things that's just happened. And so it's kind of one of those subjects that not a lot of people know anything about. For one thing, they don't know, people don't talk about it. So they don't think that they know anybody that has been through it, but they more than likely they do.
Yeah.
Affects a lot of people, and so a lot of people don't talk about it because they're ashamed of it. But whenever I hear people talking about it and they say, oh my gosh, I've been through that, I'm not happy that they've been through it, because I know it stinks, but I'm happy that they get me. You know? They get what I'm going through, and then that gives me courage to be able to do this, you know, to talk about it and say, it is what it is. We're here. We're not perfect. We're human. We want to overcome this, but this is an ongoing battle some days. It's an ongoing battle some weeks. There have been months where I haven't done it. Everything's A-okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like a rock star.
Yeah.
There are some months that it's like, oh my gosh. And you know, I heard somebody say, actually it was my pastor on Sunday, that said, if you go from 7 bad days a week, every day just stinks. But if you go the next week and you have 6 bad days, you went down 1, and then the next week is 5. And then, you know, but maybe you go backwards and you go back to 6 the next week. It's okay, because you're on this journey, you're trying, and that's all that matters. But you're not alone, and you don't have to live in that fear all the time. I think more people get this, and more people relate to this than what we know. I know that for a fact, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I think, like, you know, what we're doing here today with you guys, the more we talk about it, you know, like we've sat here and said, the more that we can overcome it, and the more we have people around us to help us, that's going to help too. And you have that strong support system. And I was just sitting here thinking, as Mandy was talking, you know, God's love for us is steadfast. That means it doesn't change, it doesn't move. We can't lose it. And one thing that I had to grab a hold of to finally get help. And you need to get help. Don't try to do this alone. That's why we're here. That's why we're talking with you, because you're not alone. But God had to show me. He was like, Karis, I am not ashamed of you. I am not mad at you. You have not failed me. And I still have purpose for you. I created you for something, you know, that no one else was created for. And so it was like he just kind of pulled my chin up and lifted my head up. And I remember that moment with tears flowing down my face, but it gave me peace, because I was like, okay, I have not failed God, and he is not ashamed of me. And I can get through this, but I need, you know, to ask for that help. I need to get the help for where I'm at in my life. And so that's what we want for you more than anything today, is to know there's nothing for you to be ashamed of. You are not a failure. You have not failed. No. Yes, you're in this horrible, stinky place, and we get it. But There is hope. There is light there. There's a ladder there. There's a ladder there. You just have to go and be willing to climb up it.
Right.
And whatever those rings on your ladder might be, like I was talking about mine, and Mandy's talked about hers, you know, your friends, the group around you that's helping you, prayer, spending that time with God, a doctor, medication, journaling, you know, things that you can talk about. You've got to put those rings on your ladder, and you will climb out. You will climb out. And like we've said, you may still have moments, so don't expect perfection, because we don't live in a perfect world. But you can start climbing up and climbing out. And more than anything is we want that for y'all. And we want to keep doing that for us. And we knew that today that was part of our journey too. So yeah, so I hope that's helpful. I don't know if there's been any questions by anybody, Mandy, or if there's anything else.
Yeah, and I guess I would just like to leave with, and I get this somebody tells me this all the time, is are you going on don't go on your emotions, go on what you know. And what I know is God. Like you said, he's steadfast and he never changes. And instead of going on my emotions, you know, that day I may be fearful, that day I may be doubtful, that day I may feel like I look like poo. I mean, that day I may, you know, who knows? I mean, these are all things that go through my head, or I need to get my eyebrows waxed. You're self-conscious of stuff, you know, or, you know, instead of doing that, you know, don't base your mood or base everything on an emotion. You know, go base it on what you know. And whenever I flip that around, things start changing. And I know if any of you follow me on Facebook, I'm always saying speak life on yourself, because whenever I put stuff on Facebook, I'm telling myself this usually too. Well, always telling myself, because, you know, we find ourselves saying things like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I look terrible today. Or just excuse what I look like today. I look terrible. You know, we've all said that.
Yeah.
And well, you just spoke that you look terrible. And so you're going to feel terrible. And, you know, it's not being conceited. It's not being full of yourself. It's not, you know, whatever you want to call it. It's called confidence. And I know people disagree with me whenever I say this sometimes, but fake it till you make it. Because you really you've got to speak that life, whether you believe it or not, because God believes it.
Yeah.
More than likely, your significant other believes it. Your mama believes it. Your children, oh my gosh, your children think you're amazing no matter what. You know, I love my youngest son. He's so funny. He notices everything. Like if I get a new purse or if I get something, new piece of jewelry, he notices it. And he'll say, Mama, you look beautiful. Or, but he'll also say things like, Mama, you know, it's not just an outward thing, it's an inward thing for him. You know, he'll say thank you for certain things that you're like, what? He's saying, you know, but it's, oh my gosh, if we could see ourselves the way that our kids see ourselves, I think that will help
tremendously.
So much with anxiety, because it's just that stinking thinking that getting in your brain, you know, wherever you need to, however you need to pull out, you need to block and release. You need to go sit down with your kids and ask them what they think. I mean, they're going to tell you, and they're going to think that 99.9% sure that they're going to tell you how awesome you are.
Yes.
And that's how God sees you. The way that your kids see you is how God sees you, you know, find those triggers like Karis was talking about, you know, those triggers that, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's people around you, and it doesn't mean that you have to let them go forever. Just let them go for this season, for just a little while. You don't even have to tell them, just back away a little bit if that's what you need to do. You know, get into prayer, like Karis was saying, journal, you know, let people intercede for you. Let people stand in that gap for you, because it's hard to hold it on your own, and you're not supposed to hold it on your own. And you're not, I mean, you're just not, you're not. I mean, I can say one of my biggest sins, you know, that the world looks at as like the biggest sin, and we'll talk about that another podcast, but you know, I can remember a mentor of mine saying, how many times are you going to carry that? How many times are you going to give it to God, but you carry the cross? He's supposed to be carrying it. You know, once you give it to him, he's there. He's got this. And just let him do his thing. I think I always think about Kara saying, you know, you were talking about last week, stepping in and wanting to, you know, that's kind of a way of stepping in and playing God. It's kind of scary, you know, I mean, but that's a way to look at it. You step into what he's doing, you're stepping in and trying to take over his job. He's like, no, dude, that's not your job. Yeah. So, you know, yeah, definitely. Just, it's hard, but you can walk through it.
You can.
And it's a daily thing. Some days, weeks, it's a daily thing. Some months you can go through it and you feel like a rock star, like I said, you know, before.
Yeah.
But it's life.
It is. And you can do it. You can do it. And hopefully you heard some things that helped you today. Hopefully you heard some things and you were like, yeah, that's me. And, you know, okay, she gets it. I'm not alone. You know, they're here with me on this journey. And we really hope, you know, maybe hearing some things about triggers, maybe you never knew about those, or even hearing about different ways to overcome and just begin to climb up and climb out, that you got some hope today. And you got some faith, you know. Even, you know, God tells us faith is small as a mustard seed. So that's not very big. So we're starting here with small baby steps. That's all it is. It's little bitty baby steps. And sometimes we fall down, but we help each other get back up. And so come back to this podcast. We'll have like Mandy's saying, we'll have the audio and the video and watch it. And if you know somebody who is struggling with anxiety and maybe they need to hear this information, share this with them. You know, we want them to hear it. We want them to have help and to have hope. You know, I was watching a movie and they said something on there that hope is greater than fear. So if we can strangle out fear with hope and with faith, then it's not going to have room to be there in our head. And then that takes anxiety's place out when we can put hope and faith in there. So that's what we want for you guys today. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Were there any questions or anything from anybody?
Yeah, I was just looking on here at comments. Let's see. Val says the whole reason I got started along my health and fitness journey 3 years ago was because of my anxiety. Being a military spouse, it just got increasingly worse over time to the point of medication. Now I can say with much joy, I'm completely med-free. Awesome. Hormones are now naturally balanced by putting the right nutrients into my body. Now my passion is helping other women to overcome their anxiety through health and fitness. See, that is amazing. I love those kind of stories because it works. Oh my gosh, it works, and people don't realize it. Becky says, I think not having control is the source of all anxiety. Knowing that's my anxiety trigger, I'll ask myself as soon as I feel anxiety, okay, where do I feel out of control? Where am I trying to control that's not meant for me to have control over?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Because usually it's God that needs that control. Yeah. Tiffany, I stay away from caffeine and only drink water and hot teas like dandelion and blueberry green tea. Ooh, I haven't tried green tea.
That sounds really good.
Dandelion is known for detoxing. Yes, I love my teas. Dandelion and lavender is my one that I'm loving right now. So I'm gonna have to try the blueberry green tea. And then Tiffany also says, I haven't found any food triggers, but maybe I need to pay attention to that. Yeah, and you know, it's a process. And I have to say, Karis and I have talked about this before. I mean, it's a process. Whenever you're doing holistic living, it takes a lot longer, you know, sometimes, or not necessarily longer, but I think sometimes with medication, it takes just as long. It just depends. You have to have some patience, that's for sure. And now that I know where my triggers are, and I have to really, like, going back to that Mickey ear, I need to get off this Mickey ear for sure.
I will eat one for you. I'll do that for you.
I need to get off of this. Thank God I'm not there right now, because I'd be probably eating about 10 of them. But I have to bring, okay, this food right here, what is it going to do to me? How's it going to make me feel? What, you know, I really have to think about that. And it's not, and it's so crazy, but 10, 15 years ago, I would have thought this Mickey ear is going to add some inches to my waist, or it's going to do this. But now that is not as important anymore. What's important is this being healthy. Yeah. So, you know, whenever people say, oh, you don't need to work out, it's, you know, you're skinny or whatever, it has nothing to do with that. It's, you got to start here.
Yes. Yep.
So all right. So if this was a long one and we knew it was going to be, we'll probably come back to this one at some point in time, because like we said, we deal with it too. At times, and you know, we may need to come back to this. So if you are watching the replay, please say hello to us. Please tell us how you feel, because it helps to not only get it out, but it also helps other people to know that they aren't alone. And two, I'm going to have to try that blueberry green tea, and I would have never known about that if y'all wouldn't have said anything. So please tell us how you're doing. We want to get to know y'all even more too. And like we said at the beginning, if you want to be a part of a group that is full of women that are full of purpose, and to even get more ideas of how to kick this nasty anxiety, you know, through food, eliminating foods and stuff like that, this is a great group to be in, because we definitely work through that with you. So please go and look up the Purposeful Woman. You will find it. If you are one of my friends on Facebook, you can click on my cover photo and it will take you straight to the link. So, but thanks for being here. We always enjoy y'all being here. Like we said, it was very hard for us to come on. I've been sweating.
My armpits are blocked. They can't see me.
I've been sweating, but this is real, and it is what it is. So thank y'all so much for being here, and we will be back on our normal Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. in 2 weeks.
Yes. And
you won't want to miss it. So share this with anybody that needs to hear it, and we will see you then. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.